Good evening, everyone. My name is Barbara Johnson. I'm the president of the Minneapolis City Council. Welcome to this adjourned session of the City Council. I'm going to call this meeting to order. Clerk will call the roll.
Councilmember Orton.
Here.
Cano.
Here.
Wright.
Present.
Bender.
Here.
Glidden.
Here.
Yang.
Here.
Yes.
Johnson.
Here.
Quincy.
Here.
Warsami.
Present.
Goodman.
Present.
Fry.
Here.
Palmisano.
Present.
President Johnson.
Here.
There are 13 members present.
We're all present. We have a quorum present. Next item on our agenda is adoption of the agenda. Is there a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in approval say aye. Aye. Opposed? That carries. I would like to recognize our special guests that we have with us this evening. We have from the Park Board, Commissioner John Irwin, Annie Young, Liz Walensky, Scott Breland, Anita Tabb, Stephanie Musich, and Brad Bourne. Thank you for joining us, and they will have their own meeting. We also have two members of the Board of Estimate and Taxation, elected members, Mr. David Wheeler and Carol Becker. Thank you for joining us. And we have our own meeting also later. Tonight's public hearing provides the community an opportunity to comment on the city's 2016 budget and property tax levy as proposed by Mayor Hodges and as further amended by the Council's Budget Subcommittee during its markup this Friday, past Friday, December 4th. The proposed 2016 budget includes the proposed 2015 tax levy payable in 2016, as well as the 5-year capital budget, the 2016 consolidated plan for the city's community development block grant, and the proposed municipal rates for water, sewer, and solid waste services. Each of these matters is reflected on the agenda for action by the City Council following tonight's public hearing. Under state law, the city is required to conduct at least one public hearing to allow for citizen input on the proposed budget. Tonight's hearing is the second on this proposed budget. The first hearing was held on Wednesday, November 18th. Before we begin, I'd like to go over a schedule for this evening's proceedings. First, I will call on staff to provide a brief synopsis of the proposed budget. A copy of the mayor's proposed budget of 2016 is posted to the city's website, and a full printed copy is available for reference with the city clerk. The council's budget subcommittee, under the leadership of Councilmember Quincy, conducted hearings on each department's budget request over the past several months. As I mentioned, a final markup session was completed this past Friday, at which time amendments were brought forward to the mayor's proposed budget, and they are included in the proposal presented to the City Council tonight. All documentation related to the budget is posted and available from the city's website. After staff has completed the budget overview, we will open the floor to public comments. Speakers will be heard in the order they have registered. If you wish to address the City Council tonight and haven't already done so, please sign up with the city clerk. Over here. Each speaker will be given a speaker number. We ask that all speakers please be ready to step to the podium when your number is called. Speakers will have 2 minutes to address the council. If you have printed materials to submit for the public record, please give them to the city clerk. Once we've heard from all the speakers, we will close the public hearing. At that time, the City Council will recess its meeting for approximately 15 minutes. During that recess, the Minneapolis Board of Estimate and Taxation will convene in this chamber to conduct its budget meeting. After the Board of Estimate and Taxation has concluded its meeting, the City Council will reconvene in this chamber to take up and consider the city's proposed 2016 budget. At the same time, the Minneapolis Park and Recreation Board of Commissioners will be meeting in room 333, which is the conference room that is adjacent to the mayor's office, just down the hallway, to act on the proposed 2016 budget. Those meetings will be running concurrently for folks interested in observing them. There's an overflow space across the hall in room 319, so just through those doors, where people can monitor the proceedings in this room. If you do not wish to speak tonight but would like to monitor the meeting from a seat, you can move to room 319, just across the hallway, and watch the TV in there. I would just also like to welcome Mayor Hodges to the meeting. Thank you for joining us, Mayor. And with that, I will call on Ms. Sandra Christensen to provide a brief summary of the proposed budget before us, and then we will open the public hearing. Ms. Christensen?
For welcoming me this evening, members of the City Council, Mayor Hodges. Thank you for the opportunity to provide a very brief overview of the proposed budget that is before you this evening. As Council President Johnson noted, the budget that's presented this evening incorporates the Mayor's original recommendation from August, as well as the amendments that were proposed and adopted by the Budget Subcommittee approximately a week ago. So the numbers that will be presented to you this evening are slightly different than what you may see on the website, but not materially, and they will reflect no changes in the overall property taxes associated with the Mayor's recommendation. The budget presented to you this evening represents a balanced budget for 2016. It meets the city's current obligations and contemplates future needs for the community. The total budget is $1.24 billion. It's a 3.8% over the 2015 budget. The budget maintains current service levels from 2015, and it also incorporates $17.5 million of mandated cost increases. It also includes ongoing funding for program enhancements of approximately $6.3 million and $24 million in expenditures for one-time items. This budget relies on property taxes to provide for 23% of the overall budget. Less than 1/4 of the budget is provided by property taxes. The recommendation and proposal includes a 3.4% increase in the city portion of a property tax bill. This compares to the statewide average of 5.2% for cities. The proposed budget before you this evening at 3.4% reduces city property taxes for over half of the homestead residential properties within the city based upon current analysis and valuation information from the county. This evening, the city will be reviewing levies for several different entities for which the city is responsible for adopting a property tax levy. The chart before you shows that there is a portion that is largely related to the city operations. There's also a portion associated with the ongoing obligation for library bonds when the city was responsible for the library. We're paying off those bonds. The Park Board is also incorporated in the city's bottom line property tax levy as adopted, as well as the Teachers Retirement Association, the Board of Estimate Taxation, and the Municipal Building Commission. With each dollar that is paid in property taxes by a property owner in the city of Minneapolis, the chart before you shows how much of each dollar goes towards the various services that are provided to the community. You'll see that approximately 25 cents out of every dollar goes to fund police services. There are another 10 cents to fire services and the other items that are portrayed in the chart. And with that, that was my very brief overview of the proposed budget for 2016, and I'm happy to stand for any questions either now or later in the proceedings.
Thank you, Ms. Christensen. Does anyone have any questions for Ms. Christensen? I'm using speaker management, so if people would sign on to that, that would be great. Seeing no questions, thank you very much. With that, I would entertain a motion to suspend the rules to allow members of the public to address the City Council.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in approval say aye. Aye. Opposed? That carries. So we will now proceed to the public comments section, and I have the register in front of us, and the first person to speak, number one, is Mr. Mike Julius, and the second person, if they would stand behind Mr. Julius, Mr. Frankie Scurato. I'll try and give two names so that we move things along. Mr. Julius? And if you would give your name and your address, please.
I will. Mike Julius. I live at 5756 Knox Avenue South. I work downtown Minneapolis across the street at US Bank Plaza, 200 South 6th Street.
Thank you.
Thanks. So I'm here this evening for several reasons. I've worked downtown Minneapolis for 25 years. I've worked at U.S. Bank Plaza across the street for 6 or 7 years. I managed Capella Tower for about 16 years before that time. So I have a strong knowledge of downtown Minneapolis and where it's coming, where it's going. Approximately 15 years ago, I was involved in the Sharon Sales Belt and Avenue of the Arts when we redid 3rd Avenue for the first time 15, 16 years ago. I personally was involved in some of the boulevards in adding electricity, water, plants. And I think Councilmember Goodman remembers when we were the first boulevard that went in. So a lot of experience working with the city. Also, 5 years ago, we started working with the Mark II project, which is the double bus lane transportation, and very involved in that successful project. It's supposed to take 2 years. We got it done in 1. So again, a lot of public involvement with the city. And now I'm involved in the 3rd Avenue project. I work across the street at U.S. Bank Plaza. And the reason I bring this up this evening is the first time myself and my coworkers had heard about this was on November 2nd of this year. And we learned that this was going to go forward. And we met with city staff at that time. We had a second meeting on 11/18 with city staff. And we were told that, thank you for your comments, but this is what we're going to build. The reason I bring this up, there was absolutely no dialogue, no neighborhood dialogue. I wasn't asked what I thought of this building or thought of this project, which is unfortunate. I would request going forward that there would be a written dialogue with extensive detail that would follow. I attached a letter, which I think everyone has been made public record. It's from Minneapolis BOMA, which represents 700 members. And most of these members who have been contacted are now on board with the process needs to slow down. We need to have a better dialogue.
Can you wrap it up, Mr. Joyce?
I'm sorry.
We've got a 2-minute clock.
2 minutes. You have the BOMA letter. There's a city staff meeting letter that was sent out in 11/19, which we have not heard response from. So where I'm going with this whole thing is the business community has had zero involvement in this so far. I shared with you my resume. I want to be engaged. I want to explore this with everyone. It's not happening. I represent all these buildings on 3rd Avenue. So long and short of it, we'd like to be engaged. We'd like to be involved.
Thank you. Thank you. Next is Mr. Frankie Scarato, and I apologize if I...
It's Francie Scarato.
Francie Scarato, thank you. And then behind her, Timothy Den Herder Thomas, please.
My address is 2803 East 38th Street. I'm the block club leader. I have some maps of my neighborhood for each of you.
Okay, we'll have
there's
them.
Someone here to pass them out. Thank you. Okay. Mostly, I just want to say thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak to you. I want to address the funding gap that's in the basic public infrastructure like roads. I think as soon as possible, we need to close that funding gap because the shortfall is suppressing the funding for other valuable infrastructure, such as streetlights. And my neighborhood, I'm passing out the map, my neighborhood in 2010 was, we didn't have that many businesses, and it was a kind of a dark street, and there was a lot of crime. And lately, our neighborhood has a lot of businesses now. We have the Cardinal Bar, we have Ted Cook's Barbecue, we have Kenai Coffee, Northbound Brew House, Cupcake Social, we have a flower shop. And I would like to ask that we get more money for streetlights. I like the Acorn ones that we had in the 2009 proposal for streetlights. And I'd like to see 10 of them on East 38th Street because of all the businesses. We have brand new apartments. We have 180 units in Longfellow Station. That's about 300 people. And we've got 63 new units behind the Cardinal Bar. That's probably 100 extra pedestrians. So I don't know if I can show this where I propose the streetlights, but I'm going to put it up here. I don't know if you can see it. Not working today? Okay, that's all right. I can say what's on here. We got brand new light rail station.
There we go.
There we are. I put red dots where I'd like some. we have the Hiawatha Light Rail line right here. These are the new apartments with 180 units. I put red dots where we should get some lights because we have a brew house here, people getting off the light rail. We're going to be, blue line goes into the green line now, a lot of people. So we want to keep a good lit up street to let people come in and enjoy our neighborhood and have it be safe. So with that, I just asked that the funding gap be closed so we could have more street lights in areas like this. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Mr. Timothy Den Herder Thomas, followed by Isaac Russell Hart.
Hello, and thank you. My name is Timothy Den Herder Thomas. Address is 3100 Longfellow Avenue. I want to speak to 4 points, and I'll move through them quickly. First, I want to speak just in support of the continued funding for the Minneapolis Clean Energy Partnership. I know that is funded in an increased way in the budget, and I appreciate that. I don't understand that there's any particular move to cut that. I know that was a big concern last year, and just really appreciate the council's continued support of that program. Second, I have heard some rumors or mentions that there may be some amendments being considered around increasing funding for the police department at the expense of some of the intended programs around LED lighting. I wanted to express that to the extent that the increases in funding for the police department are, as I have heard, partially to support increased training to help police officers confront internal bias and de-escalate situations in our communities. I'm strongly in support of that. To the extent that proposed funding is about fortifying or militarizing our police system at the 4th Precinct or otherwise, I'm strongly opposed to that. I really think the city of Minneapolis needs to step up and help lead the way towards confronting the problem that we're seeing all across the country of police violence against people, particularly young Black men. I am concerned that the source of the proposed cuts is the LED street lighting program that has been advanced through the Clean Energy Partnership and other efforts, particularly because in talking with city staff, I've come to understand that the payback time on those LED streetlight replacements is a matter of months, not years. So in essence, this is cutting away for the city to save money and to plow more money back into its ongoing operations. I finally just wanted to speak to the process and would really like to encourage the council to make sure going forward that any major changes that happen are proposed and able to be viewed by the public in advance of public testimony so that there's really clear information about what we can respond to in these comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Isaac Russell Hart, followed by Ashley Fairbanks. Mr. Russell Hart.
I'm just going to ask, I pared 5 minutes down to 3 minutes because that's what the school board gives, is 3 minutes. Everybody's gone over 2 minutes.
We're doing 2.
Great.
Okay.
Wonderful. Isaac Russell Hart, 3117 Portland Avenue South. Alondra, you'll get my vote if you help me out with this one. I'm opposed to the specific part of the budget regarding the police union and their funding. The fear of police in our city is deep-rooted and real. That fear is what brings me here this evening. I do not want my tax dollars funding our police department as it functions now. I cannot pay taxes with a clear conscience while the MPD functions the way it has since its inception. I have paid for the training and weaponry that has killed and injured a countless number of lives. Jamar Clark's blood is on my hands. My money bought the gun, bullet, and training that killed him. I even paid for the pepper spray that my wife was assaulted with while peacefully protesting. The Montgomery bus strike took place because the service to the community was not administered in a just and equal manner. People stopped paying for the service and the business was not able to function. Boycotts in South Africa all but ended apartheid. The government had no choice because they need commerce to function. These are examples of money trumping everything. I believe the surest and fastest way to fix our MPD is through its budget. That said, we have a wonderful opportunity to show the nation and the world how to solve the police brutality issue. You 13 people can do more than the thousands that were on the street outside the 4th Precinct. Cam was there. And you can prevent it from happening again. It's quite simple and doesn't involve body cams or more training, as this budget has, or more black cops on the street. We say no to the police union. Not with our money, not like this. This budget should not pass without a major overhaul of our police department and its practices. Almost done. One need look no further than the problem of domestic abuse to see a great need for sweeping changes in our MPD. I have seen many domestic abuse situations, but none handled well by a police officer. Not 3 months ago, the police were in my house for my battered sister, and despite ample evidence mandating they file a report, they did not. Why? They don't understand the people or the problems they are dealing with. Thank you. They tromped into my house with guns looking like a SWAT team to deal with a scared, drunk, drug-addicted woman who would never call the police. And this is the best part. From 2012 to 2013, there was a dramatic drop in 9/11 related domestic abuse calls. 17,418. And it
Mr.
was
Russell
holding
Hart,
at 17,000.
can you wrap it up, please? Can you wrap it up, please?
I'm on my last paragraph.
All right.
Was there a great... So we had almost 8,000 domestic abuse calls dropped. Was there a great reduction in violence or just less people willing to call the police for help? You can boycott the police union or the people will boycott the police. If I understand correctly,
Mr. Russell Hart, your time is up.
The initial call leading to Jamar Clark's death, this is a public
Your
hearing.
time is
The
up,
initial
sir.
call leading to Jamar Clark's death was a domestic abuse call. I believe
Sir,
a person off the
you
street
have
would have handled it
exceeded
better.
your allotted speaking
No,
time.
this is a public speaking.
In the interests of other speakers who are registered to speak, if you could please wrap up your comments, we would appreciate that.
My property taxes in an escrow account.
Your time has expired. Please be seated. Please be seated. Okay, this gentleman is going to have to be,
I will fund them.
sir, thank you. Thank you. Okay. Ms. Fairbanks, you'll be followed by Arlene Freed. Thank you.
My name's Ashley Fairbanks. I live at 2617 36th Avenue South. Proud resident of the 2nd Ward. Thank you, Mr. Gordon, for being the best city council member all the time. Anyway, so I'm here to remind you guys about this date that's coming up in 698 days from now, and that's November 7th, 2017. And that's the day that will hopefully push a bunch of you out of office by electing people who are actually willing to represent the people that they were voted to represent. So we deserve so much better as a city than so many of you who aren't uniformly outraged when people show up and shoot at peaceful protesters. Thank you to those of you who were there, but not enough of you were there and not enough of you were upset. So you passed this goal for the city, saying that we're going to have equity in our city, that we're going to have one Minneapolis. The language is disparities are eliminated so all Minneapolis residents can participate and prosper. But shouldn't we also be able to live? Like, shouldn't we also be safe? If you can't pass a budget that aligns with the goals that you yourself passed, you don't deserve to be in office.
That's right.
And we will get you out of office.
That's right.
And those of us who are young and have energy are getting off Twitter and off Facebook, and we're getting onto the streets and knocking doors for people who are willing to represent us. So I just can't believe last year with the budget, we gave up a cup of coffee for certain citizens of Minneapolis, and we, for that price, forsaked a lot of efforts that would have actually pushed equity in our city. And equity isn't like racial equity toolkits, and equity isn't discussions about equity. Equity is actual equity. And to do that, we have to make sure that we keep things working in a way that works for all of our citizens. So I just ask you, when you pass this budget, to think about what is going to work best for all citizens of Minneapolis, and to know that there's consequences if you can't do that. Thank you.
Arlene Freed, followed by Yolanda Hare, please. Ms. Freed.
Arlene Freed, 1109 Xerxes Avenue South, and I'm speaking to the downtown East Commons council members. I believe that the Downtown East Commons use agreement that gave away the public interest should be renegotiated. Why should the public and private sector be responsible for the financing of this expensive amenity? A condition for acquisition of the Super Bowl was the exclusive availability of parkland that the Downtown East Commons will occupy. And there will be other events that the public will be excluded from. The Vikings and the MFSA will pay no rent whenever they use the park, and they will keep every penny of all the concessions whenever they use it. The billionaires benefit at taxpayers' expense. The renegotiation of the Downtown East Commons use agreement needs to be placed back on the Community Development and Regulatory Services Committee agenda. City Council file number 1501045 states, quote, staff is directed to explore the desirability and feasibility of reopening the park use agreement between the city and MFSA. It also, unquote, it also says regarding this item, quote, staff shall report back to the Community Development and Regulatory Services Committee, unquote, at the next Community Development and Regulatory Services Committee. However, at the next committee meeting on December 1st, I was looking for it but could not see the item on the agenda. It is my understanding that if staff is unprepared to present a mandated report, it is still placed on the agenda as postponed. By failing to comply with the directive, staff is abrogating its mandated responsibility. Please place this item back on the committee agenda where it belongs. Thank you.
Thank you. Yolanda Hare, followed by Ann Myers-Welsh. Ms. Hare?
Hi, my name is Yolanda Hare. I live at 1400 Washburn. I am here to express my opposition to the amendments, in particular the amendment that taxpayers pay $605,000 for safety and accessibility for the 4th Precinct. I was there almost every day of the protest, which means that I was there when the police pepper sprayed us. I was there when they beat people with billy clubs. My hands were beat with billy clubs. The activities or their behavior was so egregious that the Department of Justice is investigating them. I was also there the night of the shooting, and I was calling for the police. I was calling out for someone to come out of the station and to help the people, the shooting victims. And they stayed in there for 20 minutes and then came out and pepper sprayed people. Those sort of people do not deserve to be rewarded with an extra $605,000. You know who needs $605,000 extra? The citizens of North Minneapolis. It could go into a community center. It could go into our streets. It could go into developing. It could go into dealing with the incredible inequity that exists in North Minneapolis, in particular, in communities of color. It's very clear that the Minneapolis Police Department already has plenty of money that they use on weapons, chemical and otherwise, and they don't need any more money, and they're not going to get any more of my money.
Ann Myers-Welsh?
She gave me her.
Okay, that's fine. Would you give us your name and your address, please?
My name is Rod Adams. I live at 310 8th Street, Southeast. And I'm here in opposition of the amendment to give MPD, specifically 4th Precinct, $605,000 to fortify the building. What I like to say, for a long time, it's been said that Minneapolis was one bullet away from being Ferguson. And that day has passed. That bullet has been shot. We have the worst racial economic disparities in the country. Worse than Mississippi, worse than any other state in the country. The unemployment rate in Minnesota for whites is less than 3%. For blacks is over 15%, and I'm sure you know this. So to fathom placing $605,000 inside the 4th Precinct to fortify a building that doesn't need to be fortified, a building that should be a community center, it's outrageous. during the occupation, the people who stood out there during the cold in the face of oppression by the police, we made a community. There were people out there who made lifelong friends. There was people out there who gained services they wouldn't have had the ability to gain before. There was people out there who, like, their lives were changed forever by the experiences. We call for the city to turn the police station not into a fort, but into a community center for the people of North Minneapolis. Our community needs more resources, not more policing. $605,000 could do so much for the north side of Minneapolis. We, speaking as community and you guys on the city council, we need to envision a transformative justice model that will provide real justice for our community. And we also need to think about alternatives to the traditional police system. We must address the mental health, education, and employment needs of the community. We must make investments in education, affordable housing, mental health services, restorative justice programs, and higher wages.
Mr.
Those
Adams?
are vital to building community.
Mr. Adams, can you wrap up, please?
I'm wrapping up. Thank
All
you.
right. Thank you.
Okay. $605,000 to militarize the 4th precinct will not make the community safer. It will continue to drive a rift between the community and the police. The police have no reason to fear the community. We have a reason to fear the police. The reason I'm saying this is because for too long have people of color walk the streets of Minneapolis shaking every time they see red and blue lights flashing, and that must change. So,
Can you wrap up, please?